The science standard is 5-ESS2-1. Develop a model using an example to describe ways the geosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere interact. Our learning goal today, the students will be able to develop a model to describe the way Earth spheres interact. How does the hydrosphere, geosphere, and biosphere interact? That is one of the questions that I wanted to ask. Take a minute to think about that. What is the hydrosphere? What is the atmosphere? What does the biosphere have in it? And what is the geosphere? And how do those spheres or those different areas interact with each other every single day? Take a minute to think about that. And while you're thinking about that, what is erosion and how do things get eroded? What is erosion? We are going to go over what erosion is by creating a vocabulary chart. We're going to define erosion, erosion. We're going to draw a picture. You're going to also come up with a prediction for erosion. I'm going to share my screen while we get this going. Think about a prediction for erosion. So on a piece of paper and in a notebook, you can color it, you can doodle, you can make it as pretty as you want it. We're going to create a graphic organizer for our vocab. Now in our first column, we're going to have our vocabulary word. In our second column, we are going to make a prediction of the definition. Prediction of, or the meaning. The prediction of the meaning. In our third column, we are going to define the vocab. In our fourth column, we're going to use this vocabulary word in a sentence. Vocabulary in a sentence. And the last thing we're going to do to make sure that it absolutely sticks in our brains and we can remember it is we are going to draw a picture. Or you can simply doodle if you want to call it a doodle. Now we're going to add to this chart as we go forward during the week. So I'm going to add a few more rows. And then you'll be able to refer to this when you want. So our vocabulary word is erosion. I'm going to make it brown. Erosion. Now let's make a prediction. I predict that erosion means to make something smaller. Or something gets smaller. When something gets smaller. up with your own prediction for this stuff, for this vocabulary word. Now, the definition for erosion. The definition for erosion is gradually wear away. Gradually wear away. Okay. We can work with that definition. It kind of is going along with my prediction. Now let's use this in a sentence. What kind of a sentence would we come up with? My shoes suffer from erosion. They're gradually wearing away. My shoes suffer from erosion. What kind of a picture should I draw for that? Let's see. Let me draw a shoe. I'm going to draw a shoe here, or what kind of something looks like a shoe. With a sole. I'm going to make some laces. I'm going to color my shoe orange. I got this nice pretty sole here. Nice thick brand new shoe, but I've been running a lot. So now my shoe and my sole is really thin. It's suffering from erosion. Super thin sole. Oh, I forgot my laces. That's important. Erosion. This is one of our main vocabulary words that we will be using today. So I wanted to make sure that we understood what erosion means. It means to gradually wear something away. Gradually wearing away. So I'm going to put this aside. So I gave you a question about how does erosion affect different types of land? How do the hydrosphere and geosphere and atmosphere and biosphere interact with each other, and how is erosion going to play a role in our Earth? Now, our exit ticket later on, after our lesson, I'm going to perform an experiment, and after our experiment, our exit ticket, you'll have to explain how water and movement cause erosion. Now, just understanding the definition, think about how water and movement may cause something to wear away. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can set our experiment up. For our experiment, for our activity, we are going to need 3 clear plastic cups, 2, 3. You will need some Skittles, and you will need some water. So I'm going to share my screen again with this view. All right, so now that I have my camera set up. Let me share my screen again. All right, so I have my screen again, and I now have my 3 cups that are ready to go, clear plastic cups. I also have a timer, and I'm gonna tell you why I have a timer in a couple of seconds. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 green Skittles to cup number 1. I'm going to add 3 red Skittles to cup number 2. And I'm going to add 3 purple Skittles to cup number 3. Now, I'm going to add water to only 2 of these. And when I add the water, something's going to happen, hopefully. Let's say that these Skittles represent rocks or landforms. So these Skittles represent landforms. Now, when water is added to them, something might happen. What do you think will happen if I add water to 2 of these cups? Take a second and think about that. What will happen? What do you think will happen if rocks are in the water? What do you think will happen with that? So I'm going to add water. I have a whole cup of water. I'm going to add water to number 3. Only going to go halfway or so. I'm going to add water to number 2. 1, because it's closest to me. And it's easier that way. Okay. So sorry, I have a ornament hanging out. I don't want it to fall in the water. What do we think is happening so far? Can we see any change right away? Let's take a second to kind of look at what's going on without me kind of moving anything. What do we think is happening? I have purple here. That's cup number 3. And here's cup number 2. The bottom of number 2 and number 3 are getting kind of red. And now I have number 1. This is my cup that it doesn't have any water in it. It just has some Skittles. It's just hanging out. So what are the observations? Ooh, I can already see purple. Now with my timer, I have a timer here. I'm going to turn this timer on. And I'm going to add 15 seconds. When I push start on my timer, it's backwards, but when I'm push start, I'm going to take number 3 and I'm going to whoosh it around a little bit for 15 seconds. All right. I'm going to just swirl it like this and kind of watch what happens with those Skittles down there. Stop. Now, wow, they don't even look purple anymore. All the purple's in the water. And I have a little bit of purple on one of them. Now, I'm not going to whoosh this one, but this one's kind of doing the same thing, and it's just sitting here. I have some floaties up in this. water, and my number one cup is just hanging out. So I'm gonna wait for another 4 minutes, and then I'm gonna whoosh it again, swirl it around again, and see what happens. While I wait, think about what that movement in the water, what happened to the Skittles? What happened with the movement of the water and how the water was moving with the Skittles and what it was doing? I know the red came off kind of fast. What do you think will happen with these Skittles if I leave them in there long enough? Do you think anything will happen? Do you think they will expand? Do you think they will get bigger? Do you think they will get smaller? Do you think they will erode or have more erosion? What do you think? What do you think will happen? All right, now that I've waited for 4 minutes, I'm gonna start my timer one more time for 15 seconds, and I'm gonna whoosh or swirl. I like to call it whooshing. I'm gonna swirl number 3 one more time and see what happens. Okay, ready, go. Hmm. They're making noise down there. Definitely making noise down there. Let's see, what else happened? Well, I have some more white floaty stuff on the top. Hmm. So what would happen if I did this for an hour? What kind of predictions can we make with number 3? What would happen if I left number 2 in there for an hour? How do you think that'll change? And what do we think will happen with our dear old friend over here, number 1? What do you think will happen with number 1? Will he stay the same? Will they just be hanging out? Now, here's another question to think about. What would happen if, how might the sun and wind affect these Skittles, this cup? How might the sun and wind change number 1? And now even better, how might the sun and wind change number 2 and definitely change number 3? What would happen if we added sunlight and wind? What would happen if we added sunlight and wind and water to landforms and rock formations? What would happen then? I don't know. Good questions. Think about that. So as this experiment goes on for an hour, make sure that you are recording every 4 minutes what you observe, and for 15 seconds, make sure you're swirling, and we will see what happens to the Skittles.